I believe it was probably my destiny, or let's call it God's will, to end up here because I didn't really feel fulfilled back there in Italy. I still have no other explanation for that.
Professor Gabriele Trovato is a professor of robotics and has won awards for his innovation and strategy and all sorts of research that he's done to advance the field of robotics. And he's created a thing called SanTo, which I can't wait for you to hear about. So please help me welcome to G2G, Dr. Trovato.
Gabriele Trovato is an Italian-born visionary, merging faith and technology in remarkable ways. Born and raised in Livorno, Gabriele grew up in a Catholic family, receiving years of catechism that inspired his deep appreciation for sacred art and theology. He is currently an associate professor at the Shibaura Institute of Technology in Tokyo, Japan, where his journey has led him to innovation, intersecting faith and robotics. Gabriele made headlines worldwide by creating a unique robot named SanTo, short for Sanctified Theomorphic Operator. It is the first Catholic robot. This extraordinary robot is designed to assist people in prayer by reciting Bible passages, proposing prayers, and even sharing stories of saints. Designed with a gentle presence, SanTo serves as a prayer companion, ideal for those seeking spiritual comfort, particularly the elderly and those in hospitals. Gabriele Trovato's journey shows how technology and human-robot interaction, with a focus on culture and religion, can uplift and support faith. This endeavor has raised a vast interest from prominent worldwide press that includes the Wall Street Journal and BBC. We are thrilled to welcome him to G2G to share the story of SanTo and his mission to bridge the sacred and the digital in ways that bring glory to God.
Welcome to G2G, Professor Trovato. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. There's lots of different things I want to unpack, but let's start here. You've been working in the field of robotics for many years now, and help us understand how you got into this profession.
I never actually planned to be a university professor or specialize in robotics. I come from a different field, which was computer science. My passion was video games, but circumstances led me to start studying Japan, and the flow somehow led me to this profession.
As you were feeling led to, move into professorship in robotics, was faith a part of that decision, or how did your relationship with God play into that?
I believe it was probably my destiny, or let's call it God's will, to end up here because I didn't really feel fulfilled back there in Italy. I still have no other explanation for that. Some doors open in life, some others are closed. And I believe that faith is to believe that there could be a design behind that.
And was faith something that was always a part of your life, or something that has been discovered over time?
No, it was always part of my life. I'm born in Italy and raised as Christian, Catholic, and well, it keeps you company in everyday life. But I think that moving to Japan completely changed my life at some point was an important step.
If we could, let's talk about that move to Japan, because that's a pretty dramatic thing. You're in Italy and you're choosing to presumably uproot your life and establish something more in Japan. What was the initial reason for that, and then what prompted you to stay?
That's quite a unique reason, actually. I had a dream back there many years ago in Italy. I had a dream twice at night that I was living in Japan. And that was the trigger to just visit the country and just take a holiday. It was a point of no return because a chain reaction started to happen, which eventually led me to move here and to take the robotics career, which wasn't even my interest. I wasn't even interested in Japan before that. I was kind of pushed towards that. And in life, you get chances given, some doors open. It's up to you to take them or not.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit has a wonderful way of opening some doors and closing some others, and then hopefully giving us the courage to go through the doors that were open. So robotics, what What is it about robotics that's captured your imagination and kind of prompted you to keep pressing into that and studying that? And we'll talk about in a second, innovating on that.
Robotics was the only chance I had to keep traveling to Japan as an intern first, as a student. But I realized that I greatly enjoyed doing research, and robotics is a very interdisciplinary field where, since robots are a kind of mirror of humans, there are many aspects of humanities involved. It's not just mechanics and computer science.
Well, let's talk about some of the ways that you've utilized that insight and that wisdom and those trips to Japan in order to innovate. One of the things as we were doing the research that really caught my attention was you helped develop a robotic system called SanTo. Could you explain what SanTo is and kind of where that idea came from?
So SanTo, which first prototype is right back here, you can see it. It was first developed in 2017 in Peru, in the Pontifical Catholic University. There I had some small funds and team to realize it. Its first prototype. Then other copies follow. For example, there is a bigger one now in Poland, which is a permanent exhibition at the Copernicus Science Center in Warsaw. It was supposed to be a robot that act as a support for Christian Catholic elderly person, typically living alone, like there are many in my home country, which is Italy. And one example was my grandmother. She often prayed at home, keeping all saints, icons. And I thought that an interactive saint could support cognitively and keep good company.
And so how did that come into being then? So you had this idea of, and I love that as a story. How do I serve someone? And you're thinking of your grandmother who's maybe homebound or isn't able to get out, but has real faith, real devotion, both to the Lord and to these saints. What an incredible source of inspiration for this technology. So you have that inspiration. Then kind of how did you see it into reality? Because you have the prototype right behind you. So somehow it went from idea to reality.
The idea was typically laughed upon when I talked to other researchers, and they saw it as something silly, except once it was made, many were asking for collaboration, so it wasn't that silly. I saw a potential in that, and I was thinking, when you are in need of inspiration, you might as well open the Bible and read a random verse, but there can be maybe something better than that, and an interactive sacred icon which contains 2,000 years of theology, including the Bible, but not limited to that. So you get homilies, you get whatever you want, prayers, and could even generate prayers. That could be a kind of Spotify of Christian faith, and it could be adapted to Christian Catholicism or Protestant or more. It's not by any means supposed to replace a priest. It's just trying to introduce a new channel of spreading faith, like it could have been television. You can see the mass through the telly, and that's just one additional way.
I think that's remarkable. And correct me if I'm wrong. Is it a combination of the nuts and bolts of robotics with some artificial intelligence software combined with it, or how does it work?
Yeah, indeed, it's exactly as you said. There is a shell which is based on some sacred art, some typical sacred art in Christianity. There is a software inside, and there is electronics which makes it all work. So it's mainly based on vocal interaction. There's also the touch and some other sense, but it's mainly vocal. So you speak, your speech gets recorded and transliterated into text, then analyzed, and answer is produced, and then is given to a text-to-speech and is spoken out.
I'm curious from your perspective, how do you think Catholics should view technological advances? How do we interact with them in a way that's good and positive and not kind of get drawn into kind of problematic outcomes? What's your sense of that?
This is a very interesting question, because religion has a deep impact on how we see technology. And this becomes critical when we deal with robots, in particular humanoids, as they are based on the idea of mirroring humans. So there are actually peculiarities in the West, in Western countries, Christian countries, in terms of fear of man-made creatures. And this is called the Frankenstein complex. And it's inherited from Jewish tradition. So it's Judeo-Christian thing. And it's absent in the East. And I see more clearly because I'm in Japan. This is not easy to bypass, but it's part of my research to find a way. And in a certain sense, a robot like SanTo is based on an icon that is kind of familiar. So it's try to overcome this fear of the machine.
In your innovation, in your desire to continue to create new and innovative and cutting edge ways to utilize this technology to help people and to bless people, how do you navigate the fear or the concern of not going too far and playing God? How do you do that calculus to make sure that I'm still following the kind of the Catholic tradition of he is the creator, but we can participate in that in ways that he calls us to?
I definitely don't want to play God. I'm just a single small researcher in the work. This is the reason why for the things that are not within my field, say like theology, it's better to ask for advice or permission to the religious institution, which is the Catholic Church. So anytime I tried many times actually to ask for guidance. So I mean, this is a robot. It's empty. It's a shell. We can put whatever we want into it. So what should it say? How can it be useful? What should it not say? This is a question that I've been asking. But I don't want that responsibility of deciding it. Yes.
Well, I very much appreciate your humility in that answer, and that is that's refreshing to hear that it's not just innovation without restraint. It's a understanding of working within what God has intended. Let me ask you this: given your Catholic background and clearly your appreciation for sacred art, how has sacred art and reverence impacted your own spiritual life and your work?
Sacred art was the aesthetical inspiration for SanTo. And I'm Italian. Italy is the country of art. I follow a design concept called skeuomorphism. Skeuomorphism is the idea of giving to a new object the appearance of something already familiar so that can be more easily accepted by a user. I was unconsciously exposed to sacred art everywhere. On buildings, you can see the Virgin Mary or saints inside a niche. Sometimes in just common buildings, they're just homes, but there is something in a niche. I think it's just what then unconsciously gave me the idea of a good design for a robot that should be this kind of faith and prayer companion.
So, how has your own personal walk with God been affected both by technology in general and your work with robotics?
I would say that developing SanTo prompted me to study more, understand more, because I did catechism back when I was child, but I never fully understood many aspects of it. So at some point, I need to study what content should be put inside. So study a bit how liturgy works, theology, and how is the Bible structure, what are the books, and for example, making different versions of the Bible in different languages match and see what are the mismatches. This is for the continuity of database, for example. So it was instructed in a certain way for me, and also made me ask myself a lot more questions about the meaning of soul. Because whatever I can put in this machine is still a machine. And the main criticism I received was always, it has no soul. So that led me to think, okay, then what is what is the soul?
When you are doing your work and you're doing your study, what does the process look like for you as you've already talked about it quite eloquently about how different things have unfolded in your life, but when you take a step back and look at it, what does the inventive process look like for you, and where do you see God's hand in that process?
Novel idea, I think, come from making connections. making connection from something already existing. You don't create something from nothing. It's like, especially in research, adding a brick on the top of a wall of bricks that already exists. Making connection, even far connection for far different fields, can help prompt novel approaches and novel ideas. And this is what I did. Regarding God's help, I think that God gave me the gift of a creative mind, which helped me generating ideas. And then after that, it's up to me to make something out of it.
So without asking you to reveal any secrets, could you give us a little preview of where your innovation and research is going next?
As I previously mentioned, that I became interested in understanding what it means to what's the meaning of a soul, in particular regarding to applying that to machine in the sense of that they lack it. So I would like to investigate more on the role of what it means to be seen, something to be sacred. So a space, for example, the same robot, if placed into a church, in a sacred space or in profane space, people behave very differently. And I want to see what it constituted, is it something attributed, or what it means to be intrinsically something sacred through blessing or some other means.
Clearly, the Lord has given you an incredible brain and an incredible desire to do good with that gift. How do you, as you navigate research and being a professor, how do you remain kind of humble and faithful to what God is asking you to do, even as your work is producing really remarkable things for the world?
It's not difficult to be humble because I'm not powerful at all. I just started last year. I moved to a new university. It wasn't easy to have a stable position. So I'm still building from scratch a new lab with very few students from now, and through my previous connection. Also, my expertise is limited. I come from a computer science background. I'm not a theologist, so I need to be very careful and ask guidance whenever appropriate.
I wonder if you could tell the audience just a little bit of like what your hope for them is as they watch this interview. I mean, do you hope that they kind of lean more into technology? Do you hope that they lean more into their faith? Like, as somebody who's watching this who maybe has very little understanding of technology or robotics, what do you hope they take away from this conversation?
I think we are at the beginning. So, for example, AI will transform our society, and robotic will come next. I try to make a breach inside a new wall, into entering a new area, but still we are in the prototype phase. Like, we are very few in the world to be interested in this, but I think that it can, on one hand, it can bring help spreading faith, but that's not necessarily the purpose. It can be as well cognitive support. So simply thinking many applications. If you put a robot like this in a hospital, it will definitely help the patient there. Even myself, maybe I would like to hear some wise and encouraging words. But as I said, I'm very small, so I'm not like a powerful professor who can get huge investment. If I could, I would try to make a business out of it, but I'm not that in that phase yet.
Professor Trovato, thank you so much for utilizing the gifts the Lord has given you to advance the field of technology and robotics. I, for one, will be praying for you that the Lord inspire you and help us all understand how we can navigate technology the way He's designed it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for inviting.
And thank you to all of you who have watched this Shalom World original program, G2G. I'm Pete Burak, and I will see you next time.